If you listen to the show, you already know that we cannot exist without our sponsors. They are the ones who make things happen behind the scenes. So let's acknowledge Fuji Sports. We've been working with these guys for a while now, not only as far as this podcast is concerned, but also at the RŌL Academy. We've had their gear. I personally use their gis. What a phenomenal product.
Yeah, I mean, jiu-jitsu, judo, MMA, tape, bags, anything you need for your jiu-jitsu journey, you can find at fujisports.com.
Let's talk RŌL TV. There's so much content on there. It's ridiculous at this point. But I think what is even more intriguing, as time went on during the project, we've been recording most of the events that were taking place here at RŌL Academy. At this point, I mean, we have guys like Chris Howder, Armin Fati, Rafael Lovato Sr., and Pete the Greek. I mean, there are so many different events that we've kind of recorded it. Don't you think that's amazing? I mean, points of reflection and kind of going back for all the students to see what really happened and refresh their memory.
Yeah, I think it's great, you know, being able to go back and look at all these high-level practitioners, Octavio Cudo, like one of the names you didn't mention. And I mean, just these guys that have been doing this for so long come in, teach these amazing seminars and workshops, and it's all recorded and there for you to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to get additional savings on all this, type in code RŌL Radio at the coupon and get additional 30% off of your membership.
Nice. Go to rolacademy.tv. What's up, everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't already, please remember to hit the like, share, subscribe, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. That ensures that we can continue bringing you the great guests and amazing content that you have come to expect. Today's guest is one of the most decorated BJJ competitors around. She's a multi-time world champion and won 3 consecutive world championships from 2017 through 2019. On this episode, the day after opening her new gym, Champion Fit, Maggie Grindatti joins us to discuss what it takes to open your own business, why she opened a fitness gym instead of a jiu-jitsu academy, how she is able to trust and accept whatever life throws her way, her idea of an athlete and the one thing athletes don't do, and a ton more. Here is the RŌL Radio with 7-time world champion, strength and conditioning coach, BJJ black belt, and the creator and CEO of Champion Fit, Maggie Grindatti.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we are live.
Here we go.
How are you, sir?
I'm all right. I said just a minute ago I didn't want to admit it, but I'm fighting a cold.
You
I'm
are?
trying. Yeah, it's been a few months. I've been lucky. Not that a few months of not being sick is lucky. I guess it is. But yeah, but I'm fighting.
I think I'm dodging the bullet, so don't ruin this because my entire family is in Florida. They flew out for a week to Florida. Everybody. Yeah. My house is empty. Me Beautiful. And my dog.
Yeah.
Awesome. Amazing. I miss them, but amazing. Guess what? They all sick.
Oh, no.
They're all sick out there.
Oh, that
so I feel like I literally dodged the bullet here.
Got them out of town before you got sick?
If you get me sick, I know you are the patient zero.
Yes.
I'm coming after you.
Well, I'll be fine. I just I'll edit out all my throat clearings and stuff like that. But
not much different from my squeaking chair.
No, your chair, your heavy breathing. Maggie, you'll see in a second. Thomas is he's a mouth breather, so I do a lot of editing, getting that stuff out of the podcast as well. So that'd just be a couple more for me to do. That's all. All right, are we ready?
We always ready.
Yes.
Another great conversation. Maggie, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Thanks for chatting with us.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, first of all, congratulations on your new gym. So it happens that this conversation aligns with grand opening, and I hit a peak on social media where you're going through, and what an exciting time in your life, isn't it?
Yes, exciting time. Lots of things going on. Yesterday was the first day that I opened the gym. I'm still going to do, like the big grand opening in a couple of months, do more of like a planned out thing. But I was just eager to get in the space. I got enough stuff that I can run workouts and then the little pretty things will come as we go. So workouts have started, and it's been amazing these last 2 days.
So soft opening behind you, operational, you're fully functional. It seems like you have decent classes with some attention and students going in.
Yes.
But I think what's important here to highlight is that it's not a jiu-jitsu gym. This is you're targeting towards fitness, which many might not know you from that side, from that perspective. You know, for those who follow you from a jiu-jitsu perspective, follow your competition and your jiu-jitsu career, this is something separate that you've been building on the side for a few years now. What makes you pivot into fitness versus jiu-jitsu? One would think that you're so accomplished on the mat. Why not go that route?
Right. So I get this question a lot. Fitness will actually always be my first passion before jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu for me is more so like being able to continue being an athlete, because I've been an athlete since I was 4 years old. So I really don't know how to do anything but be an athlete. So jiu-jitsu for me, especially, I think as I get older, I think as I transition a little bit more into the business sides of things, as I have the last couple of years, I have kind of sort of separated the two and actually enjoyed jiu-jitsu a little bit more, kind of looking at it as just being an athlete and continuing being able to compete and have that competition mindset. Whereas fitness, and of course my brand Champion Fit, is more so what pays my bills, right? And top being passionate about it, that makes it very simple. But now it's like jiu-jitsu is sort of just a bonus and more of an extra, rather than having that pressure of needing to be successful, because it's hard. We all know, anyone who does jiu-jitsu knows how hard it is to be. Of course, you can be successful on the mat, but that doesn't always bring you the success off the mat as well. So fitness is something that I've always loved since I was young. It's what I went to college for. I have my degree in health, exercise, and sports sciences, as well as my personal training certification. And actually, once I started jiu-jitsu, I really started adapting my workouts to jiu-jitsu. And now I've adapted them to basically being an athlete in general. So I see jiu-jitsu athletes, soccer, foot volley, rugby, rowing, boxing. I have a bunch of different athletes. That Champion Fit that I created kind of for jiu-jitsu now is more so for athletes in general, as well as the normal population, because the way I created my program is I believe that everybody is meant to be athletic, and we just limit our bodies from doing so. So the slogan is look like an athlete, perform like a champion. So it really targets everybody. If you want to look like an athlete, feel like an athlete, have the strength, the physique, the body of an athlete, you get that from it. And of course, if you are an actual athlete who's competing in whatever sport it may be, I'm also here to get your body ready for those competitions and to become a champion.
Well, you mentioned something interesting now. It just kind of hit me, is that you said that it's hard sometimes to separate that jiu-jitsu professional environment and then jiu-jitsu training environment, and that's what you've done right now, where your money, your career, your compensation comes from one side, but then you can really focus on enjoying jiu-jitsu for what it is. And I think a lot of instructors struggle with that in some capacity, more than others, and blah blah blah. But I think a lot of them do, with one, running a business, two, teaching, and then three, truly being a student, truly educating yourself, truly discovering jiu-jitsu for what it is. Talk about that a little bit. Did you notice that struggle? Because you did teach classes, you do compete, you've been through all of these areas, but until now, that separation hasn't happened in such a visible way, correct?
Right. So I guess there's a couple different pieces that go into that. I love coaching. Even in college, like they needed a tennis coach for like the GE class, and I was able to learn enough and be able to coach that. So for me, I love coaching, regardless if it's fitness, if it's jiu-jitsu. That's probably even above everything is my passion, is being able to give knowledge to other people, whether it's through fitness or jiu-jitsu. And I think, as we know too, that's also not for everybody. You know, you can get a competitor who's going to win worlds every single year, and they might not be able to coach a class, and vice versa. I've had some amazing coaches and professors in my time that can't perform, you know, on the stage, which is also fine too. So I think it's really important to know what you're good at. You know, I'm somebody who focuses on my strengths. Obviously, we have our weaknesses and those things, but I like to focus on my strengths, you know, which of course is competing, but I find I'm stronger at competing when I'm focused my work somewhere else and I separate, you know, being a competitor as work. And then obviously my fitness is more of the work, or coaching is more of the work. And I definitely do believe that there's a lot of people who try to do it all, and that's probably not the best option for them, especially coming from a business point of view. If you have a gym, you know, and you feel like, I think competing is important when you own a gym, especially if you consider yourself a competition school, but the results don't always necessarily matter. I think it's just kind of putting yourself out there. But I do feel like there's a lot of people in our world that try to focus on too many things when there might be something that they are good at, they've proven they're good at, and rather than comparing where they're at or what they're doing to other people, they should just focus on that. So for me, it's definitely like I find my strengths, which again, I know is coaching, I know is fitness, and as a competitor too, but I'm stronger when I'm focusing on more particular things.
And you bring up a very good point. You bring up a very good point. I think Broly Estima was talking to us, and he said that competition is a very selfish act. It's all about you.
Yes.
Nothing else matters. You have to put everything aside. It's all about you. But the moment you step into this instructor role, coach role, teacher role, now it's selfless act. It's all about somebody else and not you. And it's extremely difficult to bleed both of them. And in fact, anytime you do, the sacrifices take place on one or the other side. And this is why I think a lot of athletes, you cannot do both. You cannot be selfish and selfless at the same time. There's only a handful out there who really can create that separation and be successful in both areas. And I think this is why a lot of instructors who are competitors, they struggle with running businesses. It's like, I feel like this is the topic nobody really wants to talk about, but you know, it's great.
I'll talk about it. I love this stuff.
Listen, I've been to so many academies where they are, you know, multiple time world champions, and they are phenomenal grapplers, but their academy is just not blooming, and they continue scratching their head. Why nobody wants to train here? How come this is not working? How come I cannot make a living? And it's almost heartbreaking, in my opinion, where somebody who has achieved such a high level of competitive success is unable to convert this into a teaching opportunity and relay some of that information. But even if we take this outside of, I don't mean to be, you know, yapping now. I talk too much. But like, even if we take this outside of the mat, like outside of jiu-jitsu, this is visible in baseball, basketball. You have some phenomenal coaches who have not won world championships. And we have phenomenal champions who have never coached after that.
Well, you've got guys that are amazing coaches who never played professionally. Done it at all, right? Not even played on the college circuit. And it does. You're talking a lot about focus. I think that's the issue, is they don't know where to put their focus. And I think that focus needs to change, right? It's been about you for so long. Now it needs to be about everybody else. And in order for it to be about everybody else, you really got to look, I think, deep inside to see, you know, if you're capable of that kind of giving, I guess. Because I think when you run a business like yours or Thomas, it's really about giving back more so than look what I can do. You know, Thomas can go out there every night and wreck everybody on the mat, but if the bills aren't paid, if the place isn't clean, if the other instructors aren't up to par, what good does it do?
I think, can I?
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody wants to hear
Listen,
us.
This is-
we talk too much, okay? You got to just zip us, and
No
you do
way.
talk.
That's the most
please.
I've said in 3 or 4 episodes.
This is like a way that I like to explain this to people because I feel like a lot of people either when they make it in jiu-jitsu, let's say a couple world titles or whatever, or the opposite direction, maybe they didn't get the world titles, this and that, or they're retiring, whatever. The biggest issue is, are you a businessman?
Yes. Thank you.
Do you know how to run a business? It's just like if I break my arm, I'm not going to try to fix my arm. I'm going to go to a doctor to fix my arm, right? It's like we can't do things that we're not good at, even if we're talking personally, right? I'm not good with numbers. So my finances, I have an accountant for, right? It kind of goes like that. A lot of the times these guys are like, okay, I did everything I wanted to accomplish, or, I did pretty good. Let me open a school. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you have business experience, you're probably going to do great, whether you've won every title in the world or not. But if you've won every title in the world, run off of that, be the face of the gym, be, it's your gym, but you have to make sure you have the people behind you who know what they're doing. And it goes a sense into ego too, in a sense of like, can you admit that you're not good at something and have somebody else help you? That's something I was never good at, in my early 20s, was asking for help, and when you learn to ask for helps in your weak areas, like I said, focus on your strengths. You're going to do great in life. And in places that you're weak at, that's where you want to ask for help. So it's like, if you plan on opening, I have so many people that are like, oh, I want to open a gym. I'm starting to save money. And I'm like, money doesn't make a successful gym. No. You need to go inside the gym you're training in. You need to be at the front desk. You need to be in the classes. If you want to open a successful gym, you need to learn how to run a gym. You need to learn business, or you need to hire somebody and be like, hey, look, I want to come. I want to teach classes. I want to hang out. Everything else I don't want to do. And you let somebody else do it. That's the issue with anything, really, is us thinking we're good at everything. Yep. And we're not, so it's finding what you're good at and seeing where you can add value to that, and then bringing others in where you can't. It's just like jiu-jitsu. Yes, it's selfish. Yes, you're out there fighting alone. But if you don't have people helping you get better, whether it's strength and conditioning, drilling, diet, when you get to the mat, you're not going to be able to do everything you want to do. And it's the same thing when you put $100,000 into a gym. If you don't know anything about business, say goodbye to that money plus some, because it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. No, this is the, please say it again and again and louder, because people need to hear this.
For the people in the back.
Oh my God. Like Gary and I, we talked about so many times, running a business is a one skill. Being an instructor is a separate skill. And being phenomenal competitor is a third one. It has nothing to do with the other two. Like, acknowledge that. And if you really want to be successful, surround yourself with people who are better than you. Surround yourself with people, get a team that can help you make successful and really can bloom and grow everybody. Not just, but I feel like maybe this is part of the society that we are part of. Like, everybody is chasing 100%. Their own thing. Everybody wants the trophy. Everyone wants the gold, shiny thing there ahead of them. And nobody wants to share anything. Nobody wants to bring anybody along. Like, I feel like this happens. I come from corporate background. So like, I see this in corporate all the time. You've had an engineer who built things or designed things, and then one day he's a manager. But he knows nothing about talking to people. That's the guy who's been locked up in a room for a decade by himself. 100%. And now he's managing people. How in the world are you going to manage people if you don't know how to talk to them? Yeah. I'm on a bitching session now. But it's such a...
No, I agree with you.
It's a shame that people...
because it's easier. It's just easier than people make it.
Yeah.
100%. People are making it hard for themselves by trying to do everything, or by trying to do something that they're either not good at. Because of course we can learn skills and this and that, but unless there's passion behind what you're doing, to me, it's very rare that it's ever going to be successful to the point that you want it to get to.
All right, Maggie, I'm going to drop the bomb on you right now. Are you a student
All right.
or are you a coach? With everything you said, I'm putting you on the line right now.
I'm a much better coach than I am a student. That's, that's for sure. I'm a much better coach than I am a student. But I guess in certain areas, like when it comes to jiu-jitsu, I believe I'm a better student than I am in fitness, because I know even though I'm a black belt, I'm a competitor, and I always say that like at seminars too. It's like there's definitely purple, brown, maybe some blue belts that know more jiu-jitsu than I did. When I got into jiu-jitsu, it wasn't for the self-defense. It wasn't, for testing to the next belt. It was because I'm an athlete, so I went up in the ranks really quick, not necessarily because I knew the most jiu-jitsu, but because I perform well, because I'm an athlete, so when it comes to jiu-jitsu, I try to be a really good student because I know majority of the people teaching me are no more, but I also do know that when I am coaching something, I'm only going to coach something if I know what I'm talking about. When it comes to coaching, for me, there's no fake it till you make it. You need to know it's a science, or a technical aspect. If you're talking about jiu-jitsu, you need to know what you're talking about. So again, depending on the area of where we're talking, is going to depend whether I'm a better student or I'm a better coach. Again, when I'm on the mat teaching, I believe I'm an amazing coach, but I'm probably going to teach more of the things that I'm best at, and then when I'm in a class learning about something I'm not good at, I do try to be able to transition to that student mindset of, okay, this person, if I can't teach this, I need to listen, so I think being a student and a coach, you should be able to be a little bit adaptive to both.
So now, since you are in this coaching figure or coaching function at your place, your gym, do you continue educating yourself on everything that you do?
Yes.
Or
Always.
do you rely? Well, you answer that like it's obvious thing, but I do think that a lot of people take that for granted. Again, I think a lot of people say, "Hey, I'm a coach. I'm a black belt. I'm a world champion. I don't have to learn anymore. Like this is what I've done. I'm just going to teach everybody else, and everything is good." Why is that continuous education so important?
One, because techniques are always changing, like even if we're talking about strength and conditioning in jiu-jitsu, if you look back at least 10 years ago, more like 15 now, heavy lifting was what was happening, so it's like if you're heavy lifting, you're on point with everybody else. But now when you look at a lot of people's strength and conditioning, including mine, it's way more functional. Like you look at some of the best gyms, Atos, AOJ, if you look at any of the top athletes there and their strength and conditioning, a lot of it is that functional dynamic training. So if you're still doing the heavy lifting and leg pressing 1,000 pounds and deadlifting 600 pounds, it's like, okay, you're strong, but we're not doing that anymore. So that's obviously like the major reason of education, and that's with jiu-jitsu or fitness. And if we're looking at jiu-jitsu, like where did these lapels come from, and these heel hooks and these leg locks? If you're not studying continuously, you're not going to be best at your craft, because everything in life is a competition. If I just got my personal certification degree or certification and my degree almost 10 years ago now, and I just called it a day, I wouldn't have opened a gym yesterday. There's no way, because there's way too much competition. So to be the best at what you're doing, you have to make sure you know just as much or more than everybody who's doing the same thing as you.
So let me ask you, how come many don't do that? How come many are so comfortable with what they know and they don't see the benefit of continuous education? They don't want to get better. I've had my fitness business for so many years. I don't need to do more. I've been a personal trainer 10 years ago. I got that cert. I don't need it. I got my black belt for 20 years. I don't need it. I don't need to. I can just chill. I can sit, peace, life is good. Let's chill back, Why? Why did I?
Exactly. I think people's biggest miss on this is going to be their purpose. I believe like when you find your purpose, you're never going to want to stop evolving. So that's why like sometimes you see a lot of competitors do well and then they stop. And that's definitely something that I battled with as well too. It's like, okay, I won all these world titles and this and that. Like, do I keep going? But I feel more fulfilled and I feel more of a purpose when I'm standing in front of a class of 20 people working out. So I think people sometimes try to hold on to things that are no longer their purpose. And that's where the fire fizzles out or it was never their purpose and they were just good at that. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe my success in jiu-jitsu was to get me to where I am with Champion Fit. You know, we never know what that is, but it is so important to find your purpose. And if something fizzles out, if you don't want to keep learning and you don't want to keep participating, you should hopefully find something else. So I think the biggest thing is definitely purpose. Of course, there's ego, always involved in anything, any area of life, or just laziness, you know, a lack of discipline, maybe even mental health that's not taken care of. You know, I think it's going to be very individual for most people. But for me, it's like when I tell anybody anything who's lost or not happy with what they're doing, it's like, well, you haven't found your purpose yet. Because I believe when you find your purpose, it's impossible, one, not to succeed, you know, and two, not to keep growing and learning and
purpose is
educating yourself.
Yeah, purpose is such a strong word. Many use them.
Yes.
Many use it often.
Right.
What does that mean to you?
Right. So kind of like what I just described, you know, and I do believe people's purposes can change and evolve, and it's important to follow that and see where it goes. But again, purpose is something that, one, you're not faking it. You know this is what you're doing. You're good at it. You have success. If it's jiu-jitsu competing, you have the titles to back it up. If it's coaching, you have the full mats. For me, it's fitness. I have the clients with results as well as the classes with results, as well as the athletes with results. And again, it's something that, like, for me, if I'm not loving what I'm doing, I will go find something else to do. So to me, purpose is just a no-brainer. You know it's what you're supposed to be doing. You love learning. You love educating yourself. Again, you don't mind asking other people for help in areas that you're not good at, right? Finding someone else to help you where their purpose benefits your purpose. So for me, purpose, I guess you would align passion with it. But it's just something that you're never going to settle with, you know, in a sense of like, it's good enough. Purpose is never good enough. There's always more.
Chasing it. Yes. Yeah.
Chasing it. Yes. You should always be chasing your purpose. I love that. That's awesome.
Was that transition from training and then now to a business owner difficult for you? And let me frame this. Recently, we actually talked about, I brought this up last episode, 2 episodes ago, about Michael Phelps. I read somewhere I read an interview with him, and he said that for 6 years, when he was at the peak of his performance, he trained 6 hours a day, every single day, for literally 365 days a year for 6 years, nonstop, every single day. And then one day he retires, and he goes through this struggle points. I mean, psychologically, completely no purpose, no desire, complete devastation in his mind, depression and other things. Obviously, we know some of that were followed, but that change from many athletes, it's devastating because it feels like we no longer can or chose not to do what our reasoning to be on this earth was.
Right.
You're going through something similar, right? You're in a place, you train, you compete, and now this focus shifts completely to owning a gym. Have you experienced any of that struggle where, like, the purpose is being questioned in your mind?
It's so funny because I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, and definitely, like, to answer that question straight up, of course. I had a really, really, really hard transition to black belt where I went from, I think I lost 5 times maybe at the colored belts, like maybe, and then I get to black belt and I haven't, it's like I lose all the time. And that was really, really hard at first to understand. And there was a lot of question. It's like, okay, do I keep, not even like, am I good at this? It was like, do I keep competing? Like, do I keep doing this? And when I was able to enjoy the process, the purpose became more clear. And what I was talking to somebody about the other day was, and going back to the Michael Phelps thing is, so he might have, 9 gold medals, 11, something crazy, right?
It's insane, yeah.
And it's like, and that's super cool. And if he didn't train 6 hours a day for 365 days for so many years, maybe he wouldn't have those 11 titles. And maybe he would, maybe if he had a different training schedule, he would still have them. Like, we can't say. But now it also comes back to being where he's at now. And it's like, were all those medals worth it? And if he can say yes and want to live in, a depression or whatever, go for it. But for me, what I realized, and especially with jiu-jitsu is so beautiful because it takes us all around the world. And not even that. It's like, if I go to Northern Florida, I have a family. I've never met any of them before, but I'm going to walk into a jiu-jitsu school and I'm going to have a family. And something that I used to not be good at too is work-life balance. And it's something that a lot of people aren't good at, where it's like they close themselves off. They only focus on their craft. They don't do anything else, even enjoying where they are. Like, I used to travel to all these places and I would get in a hotel room and just sit there because I'm tired and I want to rest for my fight and this and that, where it's also like, you're never going to get those opportunities back of also living your life. And it's something that I realize I'm able to balance work and competing way better when I enjoy the process. And of course, there's times we need to push ourselves and train when we're not tired or rest when we need to rest. But we also can't, I believe, this is my opinion, we can't push our lives aside for a medal, or for $1 or for whatever it may be, missing birthdays, missing weddings, like not going to dinner with your friends. It sounds silly, but missing those things to me is what builds up that depression when everything you've worked for, okay, it's not necessarily taken away, but it's just a different route now. Like if we're going back to Michael Phelps, it's like, okay, I'm not competing in the Olympics right now. And because I did nothing but that, what do I do? And being able to transition into more of a balance between the two. I did this probably late in my purple belt and I still won world titles. So it clearly works. I just made sure I enjoyed the process more.
But let me challenge you. I'm going to play devil's, and I 100% agree with what you're saying. I 100% agree with what you're saying. Gary and we talked about this often, balancing, and I'm a workaholic, so like I shouldn't even be talking about this, but like everything you say is nice and dandy. It's like it's unicorns and rainbows, but we know that's not how life works. That's not how it is. It is so hard. I want that promotion at work. I want that new car. I want that house. We are so hyper-focused with the society on getting this next shiny thing that is ahead of us.
Yeah, but when we talked to John Will, he said he never cared about that stuff. He never cared about belts. He never cared about business. But because he loved what he did, all that stuff came naturally. And something I wanted to bring up with, I think something that you're talking about, and we haven't really talked about it, is it seems like you have a love for learning and you're searching. You're always looking. And if people are just so hyper-focused on one thing and they're missing everything else that's out there when that one thing is taken away or you have to retire, it happens to everybody. It happens to Michael Phelps. It happens to a police officer who just retired after 25 years on the force. That thing is gone, and now what's left? Right. And for a lot of people, it's nothing. And it's nothing. It's not nothing because there's nothing out there. It's just because they haven't been looking that whole time for other things.
Well, because they've done this one thing for decades, essentially. I mean,
Right.
that's very
what
common.
I'm saying is that while during those decades, if you're not actively looking for something else,
Yeah.
that day's going to come for you.
Yeah,
right?
no, absolutely. And I think that's one of the, and I'm not a psychologist here, but what I read is that's one of the main reasons why people go into depression during their retirement, because they're literally life changes as a forklift change. It's there's a day when you stop working and you start doing literally nothing. And if you don't get yourself busy, you go crazy. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but it's very hard. And I don't know. Okay, I got sidetracked. Never mind.
I think we're all on the same. I think we're all on the same topic here. I think
See what we have to deal with. I get distracted with stuff.
No worries. No, like, so for me, you were talking about like unicorns and rainbows and how that's not how life is.
Yeah.
It kind of is at the same time, though, if you have the mentality for it. And what I mean by that is, like, for me, I'm just somebody who completely trusts. You know, I'm a believer in God. Like, I'm not going to get too into religion, but I do believe everybody believes in something. You know, and for me, I trust every single scenario that happens in my life. And the only way you can do that is if you are happy with who you are, happy with what you've done, happy with what you're doing. And that's not in a sense of work or money or dollars, just as a person. You know, if you're, you know, being genuine, being kind, you know, giving, asking for help, helping others, as well as, you know, having discipline, even when you don't have motivation, working hard, everything is going to fall into place as it will. Like, even, you know, the exit or getting kicked out of fight sports, you know, for the last 2 months, rather than, I've done a lot of seminars and stuff like this, but I could have done seminars every weekend. I could have got another job. I could have done this. I could have done that. And instead, I kind of just embraced it and was like, I've never had 2 months off in my life. You know, I'm going to do what I need to do to get by, but I know I have a gym coming and I know I have this coming. So for the first time having like a lot of time off, I decided to enjoy it rather than getting down on myself or going into a depression or doing things I don't like to do just to make money, you know. And I just worked towards what I wanted, which was opening a gym, you know, and everything I did was for that. So like a lot of my equipment came from Facebook Marketplace and things like that, you know. So it's like I still kept working towards the goal while trusting the moment I was in, enjoying the moment I was in, and knowing it's not the end of the world. That's the most important thing, is like, you'll see people, I don't know, lose something materialistic and it's the end of the world for them, you know, or, you know, it's the little things like that I've really, I guess, trained and also learned. I'm a big advocate in mental health and understanding, you know, depression and all of that, because it's so important to stay out of, you know, to not succumb to. And whether you call it depression or being sad, you know, it's like, it is something that can be avoided with the right mindset. And knowing that whatever bad is coming at you, like getting kicked out of fight sports, like most people thought I was going to be like face down in the middle of the road. Like, what the F do I do? When realistically, I was like, okay, this sucks. You know, I wasn't prepared for this. I don't have a gym to walk into tomorrow, you know, but I trusted the process. And I believe because of that, like, it's like one door closes, another one opened. For me, it was like one door closed and 1,000 more opened. And I do believe it's because I let the door close. You know, I didn't try to force it back open. And all the other doors that opened, I walked through rather than resisting or putting myself in a hole and feeling bad for myself.
And I'm glad to hear that. And I was hoping that you would share some of that deep feelings in there, because I think a lot of people do think in that negative outcome. This happened to me. World ends. This really sucks. There's nothing I can do. And what you were talking about is looking at the other side of the coin, essentially, is things happen for a reason. I might not understand why they happen. But this, I am in this circumstance, and I cannot control any of this. What I can control is my reaction to it. And this is what's ahead of me. These are the opportunities. Let me take the vacation that I've never had. right? Let me take the
Right.
2
And
months and really build on this.
right. And a good, like, kind of example of this, and like I always talk to people about this, is people want to dwell so much in the moment. And it's like, okay, think back to the first time you got your heart broken. Did it suck? Yeah, of course. Did you get over it? Yes. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
You're going to get over this too.
Yeah.
And so it's better to live knowing you're going to get over it than being sad and
Yeah.
taking longer to get over it.
Yeah.
You know, you're allowed to have feelings, but you have to make sure you feel them, you honor them, and you just kind of like let them go and know that what's coming. And again, it's like, okay, that person broke up with you. You're not with them. Would you want to be with them now? No. Well, that was a blessing.
Exactly.
You know,
Yep.
and even like with the fight sports thing, I had a plan in 3 years to open my own, paired with Champion Fit, but that wasn't the plan for my life. You know, the plan was for me to have my own Champion Fit location yesterday, you know, and I can't predict that. I just trusted what happened and worked hard. And the other thing is having a clean conscience. You know, when you have a clean conscience and you tried or you strived or you genuinely, you know, were your true self and did everything you could, you shouldn't be upset at the end of the day, you know?
And if you look at your situation particularly, like if you flip it the other way, if things went according to the plan that you had a few years back, you wouldn't have your gym today. The plan would be to have it 3 years from now. And who the hell knows what would happen in the next 3 years? Maybe that would never happen, right? So like in some way, the bad things led to the good things, and now you're building upon it and you're really, you know, blooming essentially, right? You're
if
living
anyone
what you wanted
thinks,
to.
yeah, if anyone thinks back in their life of any bad thing happening, most people are going to say what came out of it was way better.
Yeah.
So it's like, why are we resisting patterns?
Yeah. Why are we?
You know, stop resisting pattern and being, you know, letting it drag you into a hole when you know what's coming is going to be way better. And when you can tell yourself that, sometimes you need convincing. You know, it's just like walking into a fight. Sometimes we're like, we have some doubts, you know, but we convince ourselves like, no, you got this. You got it's the same thing. You know, it's the same thing.
You talk about being an athlete. I mean, this entire conversation, it's pretty clear that you are just a machine, right? This was not born overnight. You said that you've been an athlete since the age of 4, and I think what is interesting about this, and many people might not know, you were D1 hockey player. What in the world? D1 hockey player? That means that you were pretty good on skates.
Yes. So actually, I was a Division I field hockey player.
Yes.
But I also am a state champion. The only other championship I have besides jiu-jitsu is ice hockey.
Nice.
Oh, really? I didn't even find that. Okay. All right. So let's go back.
Yes.
Let's go back a couple decades back. You know, how in the world are you getting on the ice? I assume your parents have a lot to do with this, but you know, how do you get on ice? How is all this? How is this? Where is Maggie the Machine being born?
Yeah. So I think also the time, you know, the generation I grew up in, sports were a little bit more of a priority. Like I'm super American. I didn't even start martial arts until I was 22. Mm-hmm. So I was like, if you Google American family on Google, like my family might show up. So it was like, that's what it was during fall from 4 to until I found field hockey. I played soccer, you know, in the winter I played ice hockey, and in the spring I played softball, literally from 4 years old until senior year. So that's just what my life was being an athlete. And I had no idea, especially, you know, Division I had no idea how much that was going to benefit my future. You know, it's like when people tell me to choose one word that describes myself, it is an athlete. And I think that's the hard part in jiu-jitsu a lot of times. And I used to lose my patience a lot with my athletes because my idea of an athlete versus some of like jiu-jitsu athletes is very different, you know, in a sense, like, I'm like, all right, I'll wait till 15 minutes late, where it's like where I was raised. I mean, in American sports, you don't do late. You know, there's no late.
Can you say that again? Can you say that again? And can you say that loud? Because I want some of the knuckleheads in my academy to hear this.
Yeah, athletes will not be late. not be late. I bet if you ask Michael Jordan, LeBron James,
Nope.
Tom Brady, I bet you none of them were ever late I was late to one practice in my life and I paid for it, and my practice in college for all 4 years was 5 a.m. So there's that goes into it too. So I think that's the other kind of issue in our sport too, is the standards that, especially with the development of it becoming more professional, is the standard that we see what an athlete is, just because in the world of sports, in the world of professional athletes, it's not that laid back. So I give a lot of who I am today to being an athlete, whether it's being on time, respectful, sportsmanship, hardworking. Again, you have to have the sleep, the diet, the training all intact, which makes you a better, happier, healthier living person. It's like you have to connect all the dots to be a genuine athlete. And again, now being a professional in a sense of work, I still owe it all to being an athlete.
So was this embedded by your parents, or is this something that was developed over time by coaches, or where is all this coming from? Like, where's the root?
Right. So I had very, very, very supportive parents. Like, even to this day, if I called my mom and told her I killed somebody, she'd be like, "Where are we going to bury the body?" Like my family is super supportive. Like, every week, my dad played ice hockey, but neither of my parents are super athletic. But the support I had, and again, just in American culture, you're not late to anything. You're not late to work. You're not late to, so even school, so it's like, I was always, my parents were driving me every weekend to play, always on time, always there supporting me, but not being my coach either, which I know my professor now, Andre Galvan and Angelica, they've started talking a bit about that, because there's a lot of that overlap too, of parents trying to do both, and you shouldn't, you've got to separate the two. So I would definitely give kudos to my parents for that, because I think that's where a lot of burnout comes from, is the parental pressure, not so much the coach pressure.
Don't even start.
So I also was grateful to have that, where it's like coach and parents were separate. Mom and dad were money and the drive, and my coach was, this is what you need to do. So for me, I think I had a really great combination of everything, in a sense of good coaches, as well as really, really supportive parents. To this day, my mom has been at every single one of my world titles. Oh. Every single one of them.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. No, that's amazing to have that kind of support. And listen, you bring up a sensitive topic for me, because I get annoyed with some of the parents. It's the and I don't mean that they don't mean. Listen, I'm going to highlight this right off the bat, because I don't want people to get pissed off, especially our parents, my parents, or parents of the kids here at the academy who are listening to this, right? But like, I think we all have good intentions. Right? All the parents have good 100%. Intentions for their kids. But I think oftentimes we miss the priority part, and we think that 5 minutes late is okay. Missing this is okay, because that is important than that. But yet I want to be considered here. It's like, I
thought you were going to take a different take on it, but yeah. And the other thing too is the coaching from the sidelines.
Oh, don't even drive. I just had this conversation this week, so it's like.
See, but also in American sports, your parents aren't on the sideline; they're not anywhere to be seen.
But like, I think this society is developing in the area where parents want to have the in on the coaching,
right?
And their job is not to coach. Their job is to deliver the child wherever they need to do, to whatever they need to do, and allow the other person do their job.
Yes.
Right.
On time.
Know your role.
On time.
Know your role
with their
job.
With their equipment. With their proper equipment.
Yeah. I unfortunately, I even had...
Yeah, it goes...
I even had a conversation with one of the kids, one of our teens, is like, my dad wants me to do this and this and this and this. Is this too much? I mean, this is being brought up by a teenager.
It's like, is your dad a black belt world champion?
Well,
no.
That's the thing. That's the thing. That's the thing. You see where I'm going with this, right? And how do you explain this to a child? This is the being caught between a rock and a hard place. How do you explain to a child that their parent is incorrect, at the same time, you want them to have the freedom of making their own decision. They are teenagers, they are developing adult, right? Like these are the hard spots where I think a lot of instructors are finding themselves today because of this overwhelming trend of parents, you know, what is the term that they use?
Helicopter parent?
Helicopter parents. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you stop from spreading them too thin, I guess, right? If they've got 6 activities after school during the week.
Taking them to activities.
Yeah, I mean, it's
literally 6 activities.
You know, so it's crazy, right?
I'm like, I played one sport a season. Like,
Yeah,
what
there
is
you
all
go.
this other stuff
Well,
that people
but I
are
think-
doing?
But I think this brings up a very good point. You have your child in the 6 activities, and the child is not really good at any of them. It's a mediocre standard, right? Versus really devoting and focusing on 1 or 2 maybe if really needed, and then really maximizing the benefits of that and showing the
Right.
parent, showing the child the success.
Work on your
and I think-
strength. And
yeah,
it goes back
that's the
to
thing.
like, it's like the parent. It's knowing what you're good at.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you good at being a coach? Oh, well, I'm good at being a parent. Okay, well, I'm not trying to parent your kid. I'm trying to coach your kid.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so it's not the, you know, it's always obviously not the kid, you know, it's going to be the parent, but in the long run, it's like they're going to ruin it for their child, and that's on them, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's not much you can do with it. Obviously try to have the conversation of like, hey, you're a parent, I'm coach, but if they don't want to hear it, they'll learn eventually. You know, sometimes we can only do so much, you know, and it might be more beneficial for them to figure it out on their own when their kid quits jiu-jitsu or quits the other 9 activities or ends up, you know, running away from, you know, it's like, we got to let people learn on their own sometime.
Yeah.
If they don't want to be helped.
You 100%. You can bring the horse to water. You can make them drink it. It is what it is. Yeah. You like that quote, don't you?
It's one of the few you didn't butcher. Thomas is known for butchering.
I am known for butchering phrases. Like I flip them.
You got that one
Yeah,
down.
you got it. That's a good one. Yeah.
But listen, so you are a hockey player. Your parents are extremely supportive. What is so appealing about hockey that you focus on that versus all the other sports that you do?
I think it was just what I was best at. I know I could get Division I with it. You know, my other 2 sports, I probably wouldn't have been able to. And I enjoyed it too, because I am somebody like, cool, I could probably learn how to do math and be an engineer, but if I don't enjoy it, I'm out. Like at some point, I'm going to fail. I'm going to quit. So again, even I guess I've just been lucky that from a young age, when I was good at something, I focused on it. You know, again, rather like you were just talking about how most parents have their kids in 6 different activities, you know, and it's like, you're not helping them.
And then they complain
Maybe
that the
at
kid
first
can't
to
focus.
pick what they want, you know, but once they make the decision, it's like, help your kid out. Let them excel in one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That seems to be a hard.
Yeah. So I think when I was good at it and I started getting looks for college, that's, you know, what I focused my focus on.
Do you think that the hockey helped you in jiu-jitsu long term? And what I mean by this, I mean, everybody knows hockey is a rough sport, right? There's a lot of physical components to it. I love hockey, big hockey fan, by the way. Do you think that helped you with your jiu-jitsu? Because when I look at your jiu-jitsu, it is a more aggressive jiu-jitsu than most females do. You are very good with pressure passing and top aggressive approaches. You know, do you think there's a correlation between those two, or this is complete coincidences?
I think it's a style. You know, I couldn't. Basketball is the only sport I can't play because I was too aggressive. Like I went to like 2 practices and I kept getting fouled for things, and I was like, I'm out. Like I can't do this.
I just got a visual of you like elbowing people.
I think it's just a style thing, you know. Like softball, there's no contact, but like I'm in my own world. I don't even have the option of contact. So like that's that. But I think I just like the physical, aggressive contact as an athlete, as a person, and being athletic. You know, there's the difference between being an athlete and being athletic. I have athletic genetics. Of course, I work very hard at that too, in a sense of my strength and conditioning, but that style just fits me.
Talk a little bit.
I wouldn't say it helped. I just think it
Yeah, no, I get it.
style.
It's part of it's part of that chemistry, the
Yeah.
dynamic that you project in your mind and your body, right? Talk a little bit
Mhm.
about that aggressive jiu-jitsu style, right? So many there's many conversations that take place typically, especially in a female jiu-jitsu world, where obviously
Right.
jiu-jitsu is a male-dominated sport. It is what it is. There's no hiding around this.
Yeah.
However, it's getting more and more
I am not a feminist, so I support
well,
that 100%.
but it is something that really to acknowledge, right? Which creates
yeah.
creates opportunities, but also creates obstacles, right? Women
Right.
don't have as many opportunities to train with other women, which as a result of that, they
Yes.
have to train with men. Now, finding men the same
Right.
size as female, that's challenging. Two, there is the strength component and weight component and all that, right? You kind of go around all these boundaries, right? With this
Right.
little bit more aggressive approach and being able to face head on some of the guys that you have trained with and you do still train with. How do women should approach that? Very common misconception is they are bigger than me, they are stronger than me.
Yeah.
I can't train with these guys. You kind of dissolve these boundaries.
Yeah. For me, it's like, to me, it's a reversed role as most of the females in the sport and are all around. It's kind of like, oh, the men need to think about us. The men need to think about us. The men need to think. But I think it's way harder for a man to roll with us than it is for us to roll with a man. So anytime I go in to roll with like any guy, whether I'm familiar with them or not, I always put that in my head. It's like we can feel their strength way more than they can feel ours in a sense of the different levels, and just being a guy, it's like he's also going to be afraid of hurting the girl. There's also an ego thing, you're a guy, like getting beat by a girl is not going to be fun, so I think it's, and vice versa too with a girl. It's like, he went too hard on me. Well, he's a guy, so like don't roll with him if he went too hard on you. For me, it's like when I feel a guy start to go hard, I'm gonna use that round way more as like just move. Whether they pass my guard, get out of side control. It's about being smart because it's not easy for either party. But I think it's way harder for the guy to roll with a female than it is vice versa. And I think that's where a lot of the hardness comes from, is the girl always getting mad at the guy, or the girl always blaming the guy or this or that or this or that. When it's realistically like, as hard it is for us, like I do believe it's harder for guys.
Elaborate on that. What do you mean that it's harder for a guy to roll with a female?
I mean, what hormones? Like, say you want to separate both. It is what it is, like it's rare that men and female that are actually, you won't find it in any other sport. You won't find in any other
Correct.
sport, men and women that aren't in an intimate relationship or intimate moment touching like that.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it.
Yep.
There's the ego aspect of it in a sense of society, in a sense of like, guys should be stronger than girls. Guys shouldn't get beat by a girl. So that's going to, again, because jiu-jitsu, a girl can beat a guy. But if you do, you have to understand like that part of it.
Yeah.
For a man, it shouldn't matter. But our society, the culture of jiu-jitsu says that shouldn't happen. So it's like, there's that part of it. And you never want to hurt somebody's confidence or ego or anything like that. And it's like, really at the end of the day, you're never going to fight each other, on the mat, on like in a tournament. So it's like, there really never should be that, like, I'm trying to beat you for real. Whereas for girls, it's like, we can get beat by a guy and whatever, that's supposed to happen. So I do believe that as females, we should take men more into consideration. Of course, it needs to be give and take, but I do see it very one-sided for the most part. And I'm the opposite. If I feel a guy crank it up, I'm not going to get mad at him. I'm not going to let him hurt me. Again, I'm going to like be more of a noodle and maybe be a terrible roll. And he's like, oh, I'm never rolling with her again. Like, cool. But I think there's way too much of like, it's always the guy's fault in our sport, and of course, like you were saying too, there's not a lot of females, not as many females in the sport. I think it's really rare now to go into any gym and not have a handful of women, but women also aren't as consistent as men. in jiu-jitsu. They're just not.
Okay, so
From
define
my
that.
experience,
Why?
So as you know, I ran fight sports for 6 years. I think there's one girl who's been with me for 6 years. I've always had 20 to 40, but there's one girl who's been there since the beginning that I was, and there's probably at least 40 guys who have been there since I started.
So why?
You know, so
what's the reason behind that?
One, not as many female. And yes, well, if we need more female on the mat, there needs to be more female on the mat. But again, if you still look at the numbers in jiu-jitsu, female, male, it doesn't compare. So there's that aspect of it. You know, a girl could come 3 days, and if there's no girl in those 3 days, she's going to start coming less and less and less. You know, so it's really just, to me, it's the numbers on the mat, you know, or it's having a bad experience with a guy and not the education of, hey, this is just as hard for him as it is for you. So don't take it personally, type of thing. And again, just from my experiences, you can see most guys try to kill each other and they're laughing and hugging after. It is very rare to find, maybe you have one other girl that you can do that with, but it's rare to be able to find a group of girls unless you go to like a competition school that has actual competition girls, because again, some people might consider themselves, but they're not necessarily, where girls can try to kill each other and you're going to be best friends after. That's also really rare. And again, that's just, men are different than women. We are not the same, you know, our hormones are different. Our sass is different. So it's like, there's a lot of components that go into it that I think it's just, and being a girl, you know, I can't have long nails. Like my hair breaks off. There's a lot of things that go into it that when you start as a female might keep you from continuing. Like when I get injured, the first thing I'm like, I can't wait for my nails to grow, my hair to get healthy. It goes into those little things too.
Yeah.
And is there a cultural aspect too? You're not supposed to. At a certain age, I think your society thinks you're supposed to do the other, right? Be a mom, you know, all the, I mean, we're getting away. It's a lot different now than it was 25 years ago, but that part too, right? If you're a mom of 2, you shouldn't be taking that time for yourself. And then in this weird, she does that weird jiu-jitsu thing on top of it, right? So I think that plays a lot as well.
Of course.
Your responsibilities outside of the academy.
You know, speaking of that, I have a cool story. So yesterday we have a female blue belt here at the academy, and shout out to Carolyn. But she's in her, I think, late 40s. And she's in a corporate business, you know, a business professional and so on. But anyway, yesterday we were doing some guillotines and she was excited. She got home and she sent me a video guillotining her husband.
Poor Rick.
Yes, let's go.
So shout out to Carolyn, not to spotlight, but that's the, you know, I think that's the beauty of it. So that's the phenomenal part when you see that smile and that encouragement. I made a note. I got to ask you, how come women cannot beat the crap out of each other and be smiley after that? This is new to me. And I'm dipping completely unknown territory here. Maybe I shouldn't be asking this, but I'm curious. Why does that happen?
One, I think sometimes it is a lack of guidance, a lack of separation in a sense of, especially the way jiu-jitsu is growing. I don't think there's any school in the world anymore where there's not a handful of competitors.
Yeah.
I used to have one of my girls that would go to the executive class at night, and those girls would get pissed because she was trying to rip their head off because she is a competitor.
I see.
You know, or you have the girls that like want to be a competitor, but they compete once a year and then this comes up and this comes up. So then they get their butt kicked by a competitor when they think they're you know what I mean? Yeah. I think it's just a lot of like misunderstanding, misguidance, and communication between the partners as well. You know, it's like, if you've rolled with them before and you know they get a little bit sensitive, like, if I'm in training camp and I need a hard roll and I get one of my girls and they come up to me like, oh, but just be careful with this knee. I'm like, nope, I don't want to roll with you. So 100%. So if your knee is an issue, and most of the time they're going to go, oh no, never mind. I'm good. I'm like, okay, but I'm letting you know I'm coming to kill you, so there's also that of it, and it's not just like, and every higher belt should be good at that. And sometimes it takes, the first roll with somebody to kind of feel them out to see if they're a little bit more sensitive or not. And then communication, like everything in life revolves around communication. Even as a professor of a school, if you have females, it's all about knowing who you're rolling with, knowing what level they're at, what level they want to go at. And if you are agreeing to go with a competitive girl who's going to try to kill you, and she does, don't be upset. And of course, vice versa. If I go up to one of my girls, I'm like, hey, I'm coming 100, and I end up falling in a triangle and she triangles me, I can't be mad.
No. Yeah. Yeah. It all...
But yeah, because recently I've started training with Amanda Nunes for her fight coming up. And it's literally just her and I. Like, she doesn't train with anybody else. I don't train with anybody else. We train just together because of the size. That's why she hired me to come train with her, is because I mimic not only her size, but the size of her opponent as well, too. So sometimes, and that's what I tell my girls all the time, I'm like, you need to find one person. Because think about it. How many times, at the competition level, you're going to fight the same people over and over and over and over again. So you don't really need 1,000 training partners. If there's one girl in your division that's either similar, a little bit higher, a little bit lower level, it should be one round with somebody else, another round with them. One round with somebody else, another round with them. It's also the way people structure their training. It's like, find that person you can go to kill. And realistically, you don't really need anyone else besides that. That's the other issue we have, is like, oh, let me roll with everybody. There's times to do that. But if you're focused in wanting to go with somebody you can kill, find that person, keep them in your pocket, and do every other round.
Yeah. So how do you grow the female program, the female group? I feel like often this is the conversation, or like the question, what came first, chicken or an egg? We need more. We need more women in order for us to grow, but we don't have women because we don't have women. So like, this has been, I feel like this conversation has been going on for a decade, right? It's like, it's clearly popular. It's getting bigger. It's growing. But what you're saying is so true. There is only a handful, far in between, women who are really consistent and passionate about it. How in the world can we improve this?
So again, this is going to be a business thing. And just like you should with every single member, especially women. And if, you have that lead woman in your gym, and if it is like a man teaching women's class, or there's women in your class, it's the same thing. It's like, you need to talk to your people. You need to understand them. You need to know what they like, what they don't like, what works for them, what doesn't work for them. Like, if I walk into an all women's class and I teach something and then I make them roll for 5 hours and nobody likes that, they're not going to keep showing up. Yeah. But after class, if I try to connect with every single one of them, or some of them this day, some of them the next day, and you get feedback, like what works, and just in general, you should always be asking for feedback from your students. It's like, oh, why are you choosing to be here? Especially at the beginning when they're more consistent. Why are you choosing to be here? Oh, I like how once a month we do women's things. Great. Okay. That's working. Oh, I like the style of class we do. Oh, I wish we did it this way. And if you're getting 5 or 6 women saying the same thing, regardless of what you want to do, if you're trying to keep women in your gym and be a successful business owner, you need to listen to your people paying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially women. Women love talking. Talk to them. Yeah. See what they want.
And this is not only women specific. This is just listening to your clients. This should be done all across the board. Doesn't matter who they are, whether teenagers, parents, or adults, women, female, man. Doesn't matter. It's just
relationships are like the biggest key to a successful academy.
Absolutely. That's the culture. That's the chemistry, right? That often is talked about.
Everybody wants to feel a part of something. The second they don't feel a part of it, they're out.
They're gone. Yeah.
If you feel a part of it, even if you like it, that goes back into not being selfish. You have to put other people first.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, that's a great highlight right towards the end as we're wrapping this up slowly. Maggie, we've been at this for over an hour, but before we officially formally wrap this up, what we do end of each episode, and we will surprise you here a little, put you on a spot. But we have we have a question from our previous guest. He asked a question to you, but he had no idea that you will be answering the question. So it's a question completely blind. Cool. Gary is going to take a lead on this. It always generates very interesting end of the conversation and a fun part of the episode.
Yeah, so this is from David Meyer, who is a Dirty Dozen member. He's been around for forever and a day, and he wanted to know. And I might change this a little bit, but I'll start with his. It was, what was your proudest moment in martial arts? But I kind of want a two-parter, your athletic career as well. So it doesn't have to be strictly jiu-jitsu.
What's the most proud moment?
Okay, my most proud moment was definitely, I have two. One was Purple Belt Gi Worlds, and it was because I won Blue Belt the year before. So I feel like that back-to-back felt really good. And then it would have been Brown Belt No Gi Worlds when I completed every world title at every colored belt, gi and no gi. Back years. So 2017, 18, 19, I did Blue Belt, gi, no gi, Purple Belt, gi, no gi. And then in 2019, I closed out in December with Brown Belt, gi, and no gi. So
that's pretty amazing.
It was definitely my proudest moment.
What about your fitness?
Yeah. Is there anything in the other athletic career that maybe trumps that a little bit?
I think just having a program that people trust, and that works as well too. I'm somebody like, I never have done a lot of marketing. I use myself, I use what I've accomplished. I like to keep my mouth quiet for the most part and go based off of action, so the fact that I did my own strength and conditioning and I started posting. And then obviously, I got Cyborg, Wagner, like those kinds of athletes trusting in it and doing it as well too. And then having people trust it and also see that it works, like that to me is amazing.
Well, good for you. Good for you. Before we wrap this up, formally, officially, where can our listeners find you? What's the easiest way to access to you? Website, social media? Just dump it all.
Yeah, definitely Instagram. I'm really not good at technology and social media. It might look like it based on my following, but I post and I get off. I'm not the best at replying to messages all the time. So if you need to get a hold of me, do it on Instagram. If I don't reply, be annoying because you're not annoying. It's actually helpful to me when you send me multiple messages because I'm always teaching, and I'll look at something and I won't, text when I'm teaching. So I look, I put it down.
Yeah.
10 days pass. So anybody who needs to reach out to me, do Instagram, be annoying. I'll get back to you.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal. Outstanding. All right. Well, shall we wrap this up formally, officially? Yeah. Maggie, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing all the wisdom.
Of course, you guys. Thank you for having me.
We'll be sitting on the sidelines and watching your new business grow and be amazing and really all the success and the best of luck to you with everything that you do. And we'll be watching from sidelines. Gary?
Yeah, we always, Thomas and I do a takeaway. I bring this up every once in a while at the end of an episode, but we do takeaways. We've got a ton of stuff, I think, to talk about, which is great. So thank you for all of that because it means a lot to us and our listeners. So thank you.
All right. Let's wrap it up. Maggie, take care. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.